Welcome to the BCBA Exam Complete Guide. Let me start with something most people don't realize. Every year, nearly half of BCBA candidates fail on their first attempt, and it's not because they didn't study enough. It's because they studied the wrong way. They memorized definitions, but the exam tests decision-making. So in this video, I'm not just going to walk you through the BCBA exam. I'm going to show you how to actually think like the exam expects you to think, so you can avoid the mistakes that cause most candidates to fail. By the end of this, you should understand not just what the process is, but how to approach it strategically from day one. Now, let's clarify who this process is designed for, because this actually affects how you should study. If you're a future BCBA candidate already working in the field, you likely have practical experience but may need to strengthen conceptual precision. If you're a graduate student, you're building both knowledge and application at the same time. If you're switching careers, your biggest challenge is translating prior knowledge into behavior analytic thinking. And if you're just planning to apply, your focus should be on understanding requirements early to avoid delays. So even though everyone is preparing for the same exam, your starting point matters, and that should shape your strategy. To understand the exam, you first need to understand what a BCBA actually does. A board-certified behavior analyst is responsible for conducting assessments, designing interventions, and supervising implementation. But those are not just tasks, they are defined by specific professional standards. For example, assessments must be data-based, interventions must be evidence-based, and all decisions must follow ethical guidelines set by the BCBA. So when you see exam questions, they are not testing random knowledge. They are testing whether you can think and make decisions like a practicing BCBA. Certification matters because it represents competence, not just knowledge. It signals that you can take responsibility for clinical decisions, supervise others, and design effective treatment plans. From an exam perspective, this explains why the test is so application-heavy. The goal is not to see if you can define terms, but whether you can use those terms to make correct decisions. So if you approach studying as memorization only, you're preparing for the wrong type of exam. Let's talk about the structure of the exam, because this directly affects how you should prepare. The BCBA exam is computer-based and includes 185 questions, but only 175 are scored. The remaining questions are unscored pilot items. The important takeaway here is that you cannot tell which questions are scored and which are not, so you must treat every question seriously. Also, all questions are aligned with the 6th edition task list, which means your study must be aligned with that structure, not random materials. The exam is 4 hours long, which means endurance and pacing are critical. You're answering 185 multiple-choice questions, each with 4 options, and most of them are scenario-based. This is where many candidates struggle. The difficulty is not in recognizing definitions, but in applying concepts under time pressure. So from a preparation standpoint, you need to train not just knowledge, but also decision speed and stamina. The exam is built around the 6th edition test content outline, which includes multiple domains such as concepts and principles, measurement, assessment and intervention, and ethics. These are not independent topics. They are integrated. For example, you may see a question that combines measurement with intervention and ethical considerations. So studying by isolated topics is not enough. You need to understand how these domains interact in real scenarios. The pass rate is around 51% for first-time test takers, which tells you something important. This is not an easy exam. It is designed to filter for competence. That means many people who understand definitions still fail because they cannot apply them. So the takeaway here is not to feel discouraged, but to recognize that your preparation must go beyond surface-level understanding. Now let's slow down and really interpret what that 51% pass rate actually tells us, because this is where many candidates misunderstand the exam. A 51% pass rate does not mean the exam is unfair. It means the exam is doing exactly what it's designed to do, which is to assess applied competence. The key implication is this: the exam is not testing whether you recognize definitions. It is testing whether you can apply concepts in context. For example, you may know what reinforcement is, but the exam will ask you to choose the best intervention in a scenario where multiple answers look correct. So the real takeaway here is that memorization creates familiarity, but application creates accuracy. And only one of those helps you pass. Now let's connect this to eligibility, because this is where your journey actually begins. To apply for the BCBA exam, you need 3 core components: a graduate degree, approved coursework, and supervised fieldwork. But don't think of these as just requirements to check off. Each one is designed to build a different type of competence. Your degree builds conceptual understanding. Your coursework aligns that understanding with behavior analytic principles. And your fieldwork develops your ability to apply those principles in real situations. So the system is intentionally structured to prepare you for the exam, not just administratively, but functionally. This slide introduces 2 pathways, and this is where many candidates make early strategic decisions. If you complete an ABA-approved program, your coursework is already aligned with the exam. That reduces your cognitive load because your training is structured. If you come from another field, you need to complete ABA coursework separately, which requires more self-management and planning. So the real difference here is not just eligibility, it's how much structure you have supporting your preparation. And structure matters, because the more structured your learning is, the easier it is to transition into exam-level thinking. Coursework is not just about completing classes, it's about aligning your knowledge with the task list. Every topic on the exam comes from the 6th edition task list, which means your coursework must map directly onto those domains. A common mistake is studying broadly instead of studying specifically. For example, general psychology knowledge is not enough. The exam expects you to understand behavior analysis in a precise, technical way, and that precision comes from aligned coursework. So when you study, always ask, is this aligned with the task list? If not, it's probably not high-value study time. Fieldwork is where knowledge becomes usable. You have 2 main options: supervised fieldwork and concentrated fieldwork. The difference is in hours and supervision intensity. But the deeper point is this: fieldwork is where you learn to make decisions under real conditions. And that's exactly what the exam tests. So if you treat fieldwork as just logging hours, you miss its value. But if you treat it as practice for applied reasoning, it becomes one of your strongest preparation tools. This slide adds another important layer. Fieldwork must include both restricted and unrestricted activities, and at least 60% must be unrestricted. Why does that matter? Because unrestricted activities involve higher-level skills like assessment, intervention design, and data analysis. In other words, the system is forcing you to spend most of your time doing the same type of thinking the exam requires. So if you feel the exam is difficult, it's often because your fieldwork didn't fully develop those higher-level skills. Now we move into the application process, and while it looks simple, this is where small mistakes can create big delays. You create an account, submit your application, upload documentation, and wait for approval. But the key insight here is planning. If your documents are incomplete or inaccurate, your approval gets delayed, which pushes back your entire timeline. So this step is not just administrative, it's strategic. Efficiency here helps you maintain momentum in your preparation. Once you're approved, scheduling becomes your first real commitment point. Choosing your exam date is not just about availability, it's about setting a deadline for your preparation. A fixed date creates urgency and structure. Without it, studying becomes open-ended and less efficient. So the best approach is to schedule as early as possible and then build your study plan backward from that date. Let's talk about fees, because there's an important mindset shift here. You pay for the application, the exam, and any retakes. But the real cost is not just money, it's time and energy. Every retake means another month of waiting, more studying, and more stress. So your goal should not be I'll pass eventually. Your goal should be first-time pass with strategy. The retake policy gives you flexibility, but it also introduces constraints. You have a 30-day waiting period between attempts and a 2-year authorization window. That means you can't just repeatedly retake the exam quickly. So each attempt needs to be intentional. If you fail, the question is not study more, but study differently. That's a very important distinction. Exam day is highly structured, and understanding that structure reduces anxiety. You arrive early, go through identity verification, and complete a 4-hour computer-based test. The environment is controlled, which means distractions are minimized, but pressure is real. So preparation should include not just knowledge, but also test-taking endurance and pacing. After completing the board-certified behavior analyst exam, you'll see a preliminary result immediately on screen. An official score report will be available shortly through the Pearson VUE portal. Within 1 week, you'll receive an official notification email from the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, and your certification status will be updated in the Behavior Analyst Certification Board registry. Now we shift to the most important part, how to actually prepare. The best approach starts with the task list, builds a domain-based plan, identifies weak areas, and uses structured review. Organize your studies around 9 content areas for comprehensive coverage. Identify and focus on weak areas through regular self-assessment. This is what separates effective studying from random studying. You are not trying to cover everything equally, you are trying to optimize performance. Use mock exams to simulate real conditions, building stamina, and identifying knowledge gaps. Track weak areas to optimize study time. Practice scenarios to enhance applied reasoning skills. Review mistakes to understand errors and prevent repetition. Remember, the board-certified behavior analyst exam emphasizes application over recall, testing your ability to apply concepts in real scenarios. Avoid common mistakes to enhance your success. Don't rely solely on memorization, understand concept application. Engage with scenario-based questions to test your skills. Take full-length mock exams to build endurance and identify weaknesses. Manage your time wisely, practice under timed conditions to avoid rushing through easier questions. At this stage, consistency becomes your biggest advantage. Checking updates, referring to the latest Behavior Analyst Certification Board Handbook for updated policies, as requirements can change annually. Regularly check the Behavior Analyst Certification Board website for updates on coursework or application procedures. Establish a consistent study schedule. Small daily progress is key. Focus on applying concepts to real scenarios through practice with scenario-based questions. If you take one thing from this entire video, let it be this: passing the BCBA exam is not about knowing more, it's about thinking better under exam conditions. If you want to build that skill, the best way is to practice with real, exam-style scenarios. You can try a full mock exam at www.bcbamockexam.com and start training the exact skill the exam measures. That's how you move from studying to actually passing.